as I said, we'll be recording this and distributing it to the more than 1,000 people who have participated in these calls since we started. So just good afternoon. I'm Chris Cooney with the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to this COVID recovery and resource call. This is now our 25th month of doing these calls, and they've been very well received. We've received a lot of nice comments from many of you on the calls, and we certainly are very appreciative of our panelists week in and week out. Month in and month out, as we've gone through all of these new iterations of programs and initiatives and spending, recently spending and incentive initiatives. So I want to remind folks that there is a Q&A down the bottom. There is also a chat, and if you put questions down there, our panelists will try to respond to them as we go and as time allows. Also want to mention that we have a number of panelists that we're going to get to in a minute, but I wanted to acknowledge some of our partners who have helped promote these calls, including the Avon Industrial Park Association, the Bridgewater Business Association, the Brockton Area NAACP, the Cape Verdean Association, the Campella Business Association, Eastern Chamber of Commerce, the East Bridgewater Business Association, Haitians United, of course, the Metro South the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, Norwell Chamber of Commerce, the Pembroke Chamber, Randolph Chamber, the South Shore Women's Business Network, and the Stoughton Chamber. Stoughton Randolph now are going by Connect 24. That's their new logo and new brand. So we're happy to have with us Sue Joss. Sue Joss is the Executive Director, CEO of the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center, very large employer downtown, and actually two fairly new facilities on Legion Parkway and also on Warren Avenue at the corner of Pleasant and Warren. And Sue, welcome. I know you and I have seen each other at different events, and we were commenting how lucky we were that we were in a lull. Has that changed, or are we still okay?
Well, I think that's the big question. So thanks, Chris, and hello, everyone. I think the question that we're getting all the time now is, are we at the beginning of a surge, or are we on a little blip? And we're hoping it's a little blip. It's just the data is getting more difficult to evaluate right now. So can you all see the screen?
Yes.
So here we are. Oops, there we go. So the first slide I wanted to put up today is the wastewater. And I know a lot of you have already heard about wastewater trends and why those are important, but this has now become what we consider the most reliable leading indicator of what's going on with COVID. The reason it's a leading indicator is you see increases in COVID in the wastewater before you start seeing a lot of positive testing, and even especially before you start seeing patients in the hospital. So this is this year to date. So from January, you'll see at the beginning, we were in a very definite surge, and that was Omicron. And, you know, that one, if you had seen November and December, would have seen a spike straight up and now almost straight down. So it was a very short lasting, but very intense for a while. Then we got down into end of February into early March, and it was almost gone. And you'll see that in the wastewater as well. And now we're seeing what's little ticks up. Like every day, it seems like there's another case or two compared to a couple days before. You'll see that in the wastewater of it just ticking up, but nowhere near the level it is. And as Dr. Herman, who, by the way, always thank him for these slides because he created these and he monitors all the data. You know, he's suggesting that at the end over on the right, you're seeing maybe what's a leveling off, but it's just too soon to know. So this is the daily case count. This shows an entire, actually this is entire pandemic. So you'll see the biggest surge of the entire pandemic, although not the deadliest, was what we saw in December and January. So straight up, straight down. And then if you look over at the right side, just a little bit of a tick up. So what I would comment on the daily case count, what we've been seeing at the health center is that the vast majority, and by that I mean 2/3 to 3/4 of the positive cases have been our own employees. So I was thinking about, well, why is that? Or why are our staff getting sick at a faster pace than everyone else? And then I realized that it was from the home testing. So it's not, I think that they're getting sick at a higher rate. It's that we're getting their results and we're not necessarily getting the results from anyone else. Dr. Herman is estimating that of the home tests that come back positive, we're only hearing about 10% of them, in his opinion. So that may be why the case count itself is not the best indicator right now. So this takes new cases just in Brockton just over the last 60 days. So you see a much less dramatic up and down there, but it is showing a little bit of a trend up most recently in April. And the positivity rate, this is again just the positivity rates that we know of. I'm sorry, this is hospital beds. So you see hospital beds went up to, at the worst of the surge in December and January, more than 40% of the hospital beds had patients with COVID in them. Now it's down to 3.5%, which is certainly manageable for the hospitals, but it is a little tick up. The good news is that patients are not dying at the same rate, and I believe Brockton has not had a death in April.
Wow, that's great.
So that, wondering why is that, one of the possibilities is that this latest version, Omicron, and its subvariants are probably more contagious, but probably less, a little less serious. What we hope is the real answer, because it will protect us from further mutations that may be more lethal, is that more and more people are getting vaccinated. So what we've learned over the past few months is that the vaccines are not necessarily protecting us from becoming positive, but they are very much protecting us from death and from serious illness. So, we'd love it if we could say, oh, it totally protects you and you'll never even test positive, but not getting seriously ill and dying is really the ultimate goal, and that seems to be very successful. So this is active daily cases just over the past 3 months, so it's just a little bit shorter time frame. And again, you'll see that little tick up toward the right side. This is the status of the towns on the red, yellow, green scale. Gray means they have so few cases that they're not even on the scale, so that's really good. And almost everybody was gray or green a month ago, and now you're starting to see it creeping up with some of our surrounding towns hitting the yellow at this point. I mentioned that most of the positives we're seeing are our employees. It's mostly employees who did not live in Brockton. So that's an interesting kind of little sub tidbit that we're not quite sure what that means either. And then this is yesterday's dashboard that the city puts up. So you'll see no new deaths. That's the main thing we're interested in, but 21 cases yesterday. That is up. That's, it's not scary up, but it's, certainly at the point where we were really feeling good about things 3 or 4 weeks ago, the new cases were in the 2, 3, 4 range. So a little bit up. Same thing with the hospitalizations. We got down to the point where there were 2 patients in the hospital 3 or 4 weeks ago, and now we're up to 13. Not an alarming number, but not 0 either. So we're right at this, this border that we hope we're in a blip and that it's leveling off, and there's some signs that may be true. We just don't know at this point.
Okay, I think that's very helpful. Some people were wondering, with the school vacation this past week finishing up and the Easter holidays, I think the Greek Easter holiday is this weekend, and the other Easter was last weekend. So I think people are getting together. So when we saw that during the holidays, in Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah, we saw 2-week delay before there was a spike in the cases, right, and the hospitalizations. So I guess it's just time will tell, and now we know what we're monitoring, and we're kind of keeping a tight eye on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. In terms of, I'm over 50 and I was invited to get a second booster, which I did 2 weeks ago. It was very easy. I within 2 hours, I went online, went to the state site, made my appointment. I was over at CVS 2 hours later, had my shot, and that was it. And then actually 9 days later, I was diagnosed with COVID. So I don't know where I picked it up, but I did feel like Teflon after I got that fourth booster, and maybe I got a little overzealous, but it is out there, and there's a lot of people I know that haven't had it at all, like me, now all of a sudden have had it. So it was mild, and I'm feeling fine, but it's good to be aware, I guess, that this is happening. So any information, anything else you want to add, Sue, in terms of, is the Shaw Center still open? Are vaccinations or testing kits, free kits available?
Oh, free kits. We have cases and cases of free kits. We got a shipment of about 100,000 kits, which each have 2 tests in them, maybe about 6 weeks ago, and we have given cases to everyone we possibly can think of. So let me know if you want a case of home test kits. We've started what we call it with our patients, the Pantry Project, meaning have them in your pantry because who knows when you'll need them. And
Yeah.
We're happy to give them out. The Board of Health, I believe, also has more than they know what to do with right now. So definitely do that. And I would say the main thing, as you mentioned, is it is really easy to get the boosters right now, or even the original vaccination for those who haven't. So this is a good time to take care of that. And
the answer is yes. We have an event at Massasoit Community College next week, and they have reinstituted not only masks, but also mandatory vaccinations. We're expecting 80 to 100 people. So if we could get some test kits to give away to everyone that attends next Friday, that would be really appreciated.
Okay, why don't you just email me how many you want? We'll get them over to you.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm guessing if they come in twos, we can 80 or 100 would be great. Of the
Well, they come in a
boxes.
package though, so
Okay.
there's 2 in the package, so you can't really split it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so 80 of two, so it'll be 160 to 200, I
Yeah.
guess. Okay.
I'll give you 100 packages.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll follow up with you on that. And so that's a great invitation. We were going to offer to anybody on this call who hasn't registered for next Friday. We would like to see you. We've been on these calls for many, many months and many years, and we're offering a free seat, very nice lunch at Massasoit next week. Seats are limited. I believe we have about 12 to 14 seats that remain open. So if you are on this call and you're interested in attending for free, please let us know. You can email Cathryn or Emma or myself, and we'll get you registered. And we hope to see you next week. At that event will be the new president of Massasoit, who's going to talk about the new campus downtown that just opened or is opening in the next couple of weeks. But I toured today, as well as the director of South Coast Rail. South Coast Rail is opening in the next 12 months. And the new stations will be open in Fall River and New Bedford with brand new trains, double-decker trains. And Gene Fox, who's the director of that initiative, will be with us to show us the new routes and all of that. So please join us for that call. We'll also have with us Susan Whitaker, who's with us today too. And she will be on a mini panel next week talking about some of the new initiatives. She and I were just on a call a few moments ago with Secretary Acosta and Secretary Keneally from Economic Development and Workforce. And Sue, welcome. And I know there was a lot of information in that call. What can you share with us? I took a few notes. I'll try to fill in anything that you don't mention.
That sounds perfect, because honestly, it was like writer's cramp. I mean, and now that I'm looking at my notes, and like half of it is scribbled that I'm like, what is that word? So bear with me, guys. I am going to be looking at my notes as we review this because we literally just came from that meeting where we were given a lot of information. So the big news out of the Economic Office of Housing and Economic Development is the filing of a $3.5 billion economic development bill. So, they're really looking to gear funding for projects to strengthen infrastructure, really create jobs and invest in cities and towns. So there's going to be $2.3 billion in funding from ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, as well as $1.26 billion in capital bond authorization. So that's sort of how the money is going to trickle down. And then from there, $970 million is going to be supporting the revitalization of local downtowns and communities.
That's great.
I know. $318 million, and of that will be from the ARPA funding, and $650 million will be in a bond authorization. So that includes $550 million for the MassWorks program. And the MassWorks program, typically, there's more projects that are warranted that they want to fund, but there's too many projects for the money to go around. So we're really excited about having some additional funding to hopefully launch more of those, those local and regional projects for infrastructure.
Keneally had said that every community in Massachusetts is getting some money. Do they have to apply, or does that just go to their balance sheet, or how do they do that?
That's a good question, because I was looking to get some clarity on that myself. And from what I read online, it said nearly 250 municipalities would receive downtown recovery grants totaling 108 million. So I'm not exactly sure how that money is going to be rolled out. And I think it's still to be determined, right? Because there was talk about some money that's gearing up, focusing specifically for small businesses, but it's kind of like, hey, that's coming down the line, wait for that. So we didn't really get any much information on that. I think the housing piece was another really great part of this proposed legislation. There's about 270 million to support housing production across the Commonwealth. And it's very clear that we are in a housing crisis. And so money that we can have to support that will be great. So that includes affordable housing, and the rental housing production and the rehabilitation for that, climate resilient housing, public housing, and transit-oriented development. And I think one of the interesting things that came out of that call, and Chris, I don't know if you were aware of this, but we're only one of 4 states who actually fund public housing. Did I hear that correctly? I mean, I was kind of blown away by that. And of the 4, we fund the most. So even with what we put forward for public housing, it isn't nearly enough for the demand and the need that's there. So, and then I think it was, if you're pro-business, you need to be pro-housing, right? Because if you can't get your workforce to have any place to live near you, or anything that's affordable, then you're not going to be able to run your business. So it's kind of those two things go hand in hand. In addition to that, let's see. Yeah, it did say every city or town is getting something, or some money has been obligated. So the other piece that's interesting about the ARPA funds is that the monies have to be obligated by the end of 2024. So we need to have, a plan for what we're doing with this money by the end of 2024. And the money has to be spent and projects finalized by the end of 2026. So that's a pretty short window to take care of all that money. I mean, there's a lot of money that's coming down towards us, which is the great news, but there's an urgency to really kind of get this done, right? Mm-hmm. So I think another good thing for the city of Brockton and gateway cities in general is that they're going to be tripling the HDIP program, or the Housing Development Incentive Program. So it's going from 10 million, which they've seen annually, to now 30 million, which is another really positive boon, especially for the gateway cities. Let's see. Oh, there's proposals that are granted to help support the innovation economy. I think, Massachusetts wants to stay poised as a competitive and innovative state. And there's going to be R&D funds to help build this sector out. So that includes things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, digital health, fintech, blockchain, and blue tech. So, and I believe there's going to be 200 million in matching federal funds for that as well. So, you know, we want to stay at the forefront and be sure that we're not missing the boat on that. And
so that he called that the Mass Forward Initiative, correct? That Mass Forward Initiative. That's what I thought he
is that what
called it.
you had?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mass.
let's go with it because again,
Yeah.
as we share this, we're tag teaming this, Chris. If you say
Yeah,
something, I'm
okay.
going to say sure because I
Well,
didn't write that down, but that doesn't.
I was going to say perhaps Emma can Google that and post it down below. But I think that was part of the press conference yesterday. The governor was quoted as saying. But anyway.
Yeah. And then I think the other news was about outdoor dining. That for the outdoor dining is going to extend through April 1st. And that also is for to-go drinks of 2023. And so I think that's also kind of a big relief for a lot of businesses to know that that's going to be continuing in play. May 1st through 7th is Small Business Week. So we're going to be celebrating small businesses. Not that we don't celebrate small businesses every week. Let's be real. We do that. This is just an extra special week, but we always are giving love to the small businesses. There's going to be a STEM summit next week, April 28th. And that's to really make sure that the education partners and the businesses and all those who are involved in STEM initiatives are all kind of on the same page, and we're making sure that we're creating those STEM pathways for our kids, and that's put on by the STEM Advisory Council, the UMass Donahue Institute, and the Mass Business Roundtable. And there's going to be both a combination of virtual and in-person for events, and a lot of it's geared around kind of creating internships for students. And then you have done a wonderful job of promoting this. I know you put on your website, but I'm going to talk about it again, is that both the Secretary of EOHED and Labor and Workforce, so Secretary Acosta and Secretary Keneally, are going to be heading out to do a 10 roadshow tour for workforce. So they're calling it the Workforce Roadshow. And the hope is to really engage with employers to share what programs are already existing that they could be leveraging, as well as new programs that have been launched geared towards workforce development, and critically to understand employers' needs. So they really are trying to drive as many employers to come to share, you know, their struggles, things that they're looking for, so that they can take that back and then, you know, and take that information and start working on new programs to develop that will address those. So we're really encouraging folks to attend those. The one that's coming up that's closest to Metro South Chamber folks is going to be held on April 26th at Bridgewater State. And so, you know, if you can come, we'd really love to have you there. I know some of the programs they're going to be talking about are things that, again, Chris, you've done a great job of sharing this, that there's this new role called market maker, where there's an individual regionally whose whole focus and job is to work with the business directly, and then they're the go-between between all the training providers. And, you know, they say, hey, I need CNC machinists. And then this person then says, okay, here are all the programs that are doing CNC machining. Do they meet your needs? And if not, let's get a conversation with that training provider so that we can start building out a pipeline of talent that will address your labor shortages and the things that you're having problems with. So it's a very new role, but one that we're hoping will bring a lot of insight and clarity to get that, you know, education and workforce to be working together in tandem. Another opportunity that's being discussed around that are just the Workforce Training Fund grants that everyone probably knows about now, but we can't say enough of how much you could be leveraging those. I know, Chris, we talked
$21 million a year, right?
Yep, we talked about the Hire Now program, and so
Yes.
I know
Is that over, or is that still available?
So it's a little tricky. So how it was rolled out, the announcement was made, I think, on March 23rd. And this program is very new and different because it addresses $4,000 per employee for a new hire. So it's a $4,000 flat rate, and businesses who are in Massachusetts, they have to be have a actual physical presence in Massachusetts, are eligible. And what's great is, nonprofits are actually included in all this, which is terrific. So it's really, it's a phenomenal opportunity. So you can use this money in a variety of ways. You can use it as a sign-on bonus. You can use it as on-the-job training. So, the time that you're taking out of your productivity to train someone, that money can be, absorbed into those training costs, as well as tuition reimbursement. It can be a retention bonus. Hey, once you stay on for so long, we'll give you the $4,000. So there's a lot of flexibility with this, and not a lot of compliance necessary, like documentation. So an employee has to work a minimum of 30 hours a week. They also need to be a Massachusetts resident, and they can earn between starting anywhere from minimum wage to a maximum of $85,000 a year in order to be eligible. Okay. And so really the requirements for a business are a certificate of good standing, along with their unemployment claims being covered and up to snuff. And then really that's it. So how the program started was businesses were encouraged to log in their business, like really just name, rank, and serial number, and describe what they're anticipating for their hiring needs and how much money they would use and how they plan on using the money. Yeah. So what happened was we kind of had a feeling that there was $50 million put towards this, and that it was going to be very, enticing for a lot of businesses to leverage. And as a matter of fact, it was so much so that before they were able to launch the next phase of the program, where that money is actually set aside for you, they were already seeing that there was more people had signed up than they were anticipating. So they shut it off, that no more employers right now can register for this program. But if you've already put your information in, you're covered. So then the next step is what's happening on Monday, the 25th. And this is really critical because this is a first come, first served grant opportunity. So you've put in your name, rank, and serial number. The next step is you have to show your certificate of good standing, and you prove your eligibility. And I think you have to put in your DUNS number or your DBA or a couple of other things. And then you have to put in all the new employee hire information in the system. And then once all of that's complete, that's when that $4,000 is set aside for you, because they have to stay employed for 60 days before they're actually eligible. Okay. And once you have to go, so you have to go in when you hire them. And if they're already been hired, you want to go in Monday morning, get on that boat right away. And then once they've completed that 60 days, it's on you as the employer to go back in and say, hey, they've met their requirements. And that's when you provide your bank information and they deposit a check into your account. So there still isn't a lot of clarity on what kind of documentation is going to need to be provided. My hunch is that they're going to, because there's so many people and there's just not enough to kind of track all of this. I think they're going to be potentially just, picking a few and kind of drilling down on those. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of reports that you're going to have to submit or those kinds of things, other than prove that the person's still there employed 60 days later. Okay, so at this point, it's closed up, but it may reopen if they don't get that many people actually putting the employer information in on Monday, Tuesday. Yes, that, and I think there are people who are going to fall off, right? I mean, some people aren't going to make it 60 days, right? So they had that money set aside. The other piece that was mentioned in this call, which was also very exciting, is that they're looking to add, and this program was $50 million, but they're looking to add another 25 million in the future towards this as well. So I think, and hopefully it will be similar to how Mass Growth Capital Corporation has done some of their programs, where it's, hey, if you haven't already taken a bite of the apple, you now have preference. So, that's just me, Sue Whitaker, person talking here, but I'm hoping that, those people who weren't able to get in on this first round will have, first right of refusal moving forward. But
I think you did an extraordinary job of ticking off so many of the items. That was a long call. And for those of you who are looking for more information, come next Friday to Massasoit Conference Center for lunch on us, and you'll meet Susan, and Susan can give you some additional information. So I just want to be able to wrap that up there, Susan, so we can get in the other briefings. So we have Eli with us. Eli, good to see you. It's been a little bit a while, maybe since January, I think. And we understand that there's new information from the Small Business Administration. Of course, we're right on the eve of Small Business Month and a lot of the awards programs that are going on in the month of May. So what can you tell us about what's new? And
well, Chris, thank you again for having me on the call, and it's great to see many of our friends here. Definitely, there's been a lot of updates. There's been a lot of new information here at the SBA. A lot of progress, I would say, with the various programs. And I try to sort of capture as much as I could, given the time limitations we've got. But certainly I wanted to touch on a number of programs here for our audience today. So obviously, this is information some of you may have heard. Again, there's a lot of updates here. Hard to keep track, to be honest with you. We've been extremely busy with the various programs. The economic injury disaster loan, of course, is still the only program currently available. And before I jump into that and provide an update on the various programs, just wanted to give an update on the PPP forgiveness for everybody. So obviously, of all the pandemic relief programs, the PPP was the lion's share of the dollars. Here in the Commonwealth, about $21 billion, but we're almost at a 90% forgiveness on this program, right? So about 88% nationally of the total PPP dollars lent out have been already forgiven. And as far as applications, the unit itself, 85% of the total it has actually been submitted and forgiven. So great progress on it. But considering we are, I would say still in tax season, because most businesses are filing on an extension, I thought I'd share an update, although I am not with the IRS. Our sister agency has made this information publicly available. So at the bottom of the slide here, and obviously everyone's going to get a copy of this presentation, as you guys always graciously share with the audience. So this is a IRS publication that covers all of the pandemic related programs. For the most part, the PPP loan program is not a taxable event. And most importantly, with a PPP loan program, all the funds claimed as expenses under the PPP forgiveness are tax deductible. So through the normal tax filing process for those borrowers who were eligible, for forgiveness. So we're talking PPP1, PPP2, a lot of this dollars went out in 2021. So those need to be claimed during this tax season, right? With this tax filing. So they do not represent a taxable event to our small business owners, which is great news. Moreover, right, we've got all the various programs that small businesses hopefully took advantage of. So the Section 1112 debt relief payments, the EIDL grants of the supplemental, the original, and then the targeted EIDL advance, the SVOG, the RRF, all of those are not a taxable event to the small business owner, right, to the business itself. So that is great news all around. And I thought I would just share with folks that information here today. Regarding the EIDL, so we love numbers, but I'm not going to bore anybody with those. We have about $17 billion remaining, which seems like a lot of money. That's the national figure left on this program, but we're burning at about 650 million a day. So that's only 3 weeks left on the program at the current burn rate. So Here in Massachusetts, though, it is just amazing. $7 billion in assistance to small businesses. You've heard me say this, this is the shot in the arm that many of our small businesses needed. And, we have helped, over 66,000 small businesses through this program. And that's just amazing. A lot more applications in the queue, a lot more folks were trying to get across the finish line. But nevertheless, I think this is a remarkable achievement. And obviously, we couldn't have done it without the help of our partners, such as yourselves and all the supporting organizations that are part of this event. So thank you, Chris, and to you and your staff, and all of you on the line, of course.
Thank you.
A couple of things on the COVID Idle program worth noting here is the extended deferment. So this program originally had a 2-year deferment, right? So you started with a 6-month deferment, and as the pandemic, extended or prolonged, I should say, we extended the deferment further and further to the 1-year mark, 2-year mark, and now 2.5 years. So all of the COVID Idle loans have a 30-month deferment period. It's worth noting that this loans will accrue interest. And I've said this many times, for those borrowers who can at least make interest payments, yes, this is patient capital at the lowest, or I should say below market rates, but it does accrue interest, and that does accumulate over time. So if folks can at least make interest payments on this loan, they should, and I would encourage them to do so, because that interest is going to be then capitalized and then re-amortized at the end of the deferment period. Okay. There is still time to request an increase. Okay, there is still time to request an increase. I would highly encourage those who are eligible, who took either $150,000 or $500,000 and are eligible for the full statutory, limit on this program of $2 million. Please do request an increase. Let us know if you're stuck in a bottleneck. There's 6 people in our office who have access to the system and can speed things along for folks. I do want to touch base quickly, Chris, here on our traditional loan programs. So the new budget did give us additional funding. So we have about 10% increase on our traditional 7(a) loan program, so $30 billion in total. We've used up a third of it already, so plenty of funding available between now and September 30th, the end of our fiscal year. The 504 loan program, which has been on fire, absolutely on fire, received additional funding as well. So the authorization level went up to $11 billion for the traditional 504. An additional $4 billion was put towards the 504 debt refi without expansion. So that's a little too detailed maybe for some of the attendees, but again, $15 billion in the 504 loan program, amazing, funding, I should say, plenty of funding for the remainder of this fiscal year, right? So we've only used less than half of the authorization level on the traditional 504 loan program. So that is great news for those who are, still considering the 504 loan program, looking to either refinance or looking to, purchase real estate for their business. So fee incentives, we are incentivizing low dollar loans. For us, anything under $350,000 is considered a low dollar loan. I have mentioned this in the past, that the Express Loan Program is a great program, but we do have another update on our traditional loan programs. And I know that this may be most welcome news, I think, for the community as a whole, right? Gateway cities especially. So Community Advantage program is a pilot program that was extended for another 2 years under this federal rule. It does provide for an increased limit, okay, under the Community Advantage loan program. Mission-based lenders that are participating in this program, they can now lend up to $350,000, which is the amount the fees are waived on our loans this fiscal year. We are making some additional changes. So obviously loans up to $50,000 will not require any collateral, and obviously, can only be done through our Community Advantage lenders. So just reaching out to anyone else out there who may have considered participating in the SBA Community Advantage Program. These changes are going to make this program a lot more attractive. And, for folks who are considering this, again, CDCs, microlenders, SBA microlenders, intermediary lending pilot program intermediaries, and CDFIs are eligible to participate. Okay, there's a number of entities that are not eligible, especially those lenders that are already able to participate in our 7A loan program. So Community Advantage is the same program as the 7A. But there in Taunton, you have Seed, which is a Community Advantage lender, a very active partner of the SBA. New Bedford Economic Development is also a Community Advantage lender. I believe we've got coastal communities as well in the South Coast and Cape and Islands there. So we've got plenty of participants in this program. For those who are already participants in the program, I would encourage you to apply for delegated authority. Reach out to me directly. I think this changes to the program have made this program a lot more attractive. And I think this is definitely something we'd want to take advantage of, because this is how we can reach a lot more underserved small businesses. So, Chris, I think that's all, the time that I had.
Okay.
And just want to, pass it back to you. I'll be here if any questions. Obviously, folks know where to find me, but I'll put my email address on the chat as well. And, look forward to connecting with anyone after the fact.
Thank you, Eli, and thank you for all of the attention you've given to our members. I know many who have reached out to you directly because they were stuck or there was a bottleneck, a tech glitch, whatever it is, and you were able to help them either directly or pass them on to somebody who was in the right space to fix what was needed. And then many of them have now accessed a lot of the resources you're talking about here and are counted in the numbers that you're talking about. So that's wonderful. I heard there was a 3-year growth and action plan that Bob was talking about. It used to be called Thrive. I think it's like a mentorship. Is that something you could just mention, or maybe we can put inside the links?
Yeah, so that's our Emerging Leaders Program. So we do have a new vendor for that. We are now in the process of basically seeking expressions of interest for the 2022 program. So usually our emerging leader graduates, we have a graduating ceremony, and it's an amazing program. It used to be through Interrise. We do have a new vendor that we're going through for this year's program, and truly amazing businesses. A couple of the folks that graduated, past graduates of that program, we probably had it for about 12 years here in Massachusetts, right? And many of them, past graduates or have been award winners, for our National Small Business Week. And we do have one here from Central Mass. We have some great winners this year. And again, I will shamelessly put a plug in for our Cinco de Mayo,
Event, yeah.
Event. So
people can do it either way. They can go in person or they can go virtual, right?
So we that's still being worked on, but the goal is for it to be a hybrid event at this point. So that's what we're working on. But there's still a lot of moving parts, as you know, with the federal government. Things are up for subject to change, I should say, at a moment's notice.
I hear you. Well, thank you very much for that update. I know we're going to jump to Jill, and I see her there. Jill, as we know, is from the Massachusetts Small Business Development Centers and has really been instrumental in helping companies right from the beginning before the pandemic, but then during the pandemic, even at a higher level, get through this. She's available virtually and also in person at the Chamber office in Brockton. And Jill, welcome. What can you tell us about, I mean, I get your emails every week and you have so many workshops and so many opportunities for one-on-one counseling. It's just extraordinary resource.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. And would first of all just like to say everybody on this call should know that we are convinced that Eli has not slept for 2 years. He's been so helpful to everybody, and that he works 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Eli, you have been the bomb, and everybody should know that. Thank you for everything
Agreed.
you have
Agreed,
done for the businesses in the state of Massachusetts. So Chris, it's great to see
Thank
you
you,
again.
Jill.
I haven't been on as many calls as I probably should have been on, but we have been very, very, very busy between COVID money, people surviving, wondering what they can do with PPP, wondering what they can do if they couldn't get it because there's just people who couldn't get money. We're thrilled to say that bankruptcies in the state are lower than they were in 2008. So I think one of the first things we talked about when back when this all started 2 years ago is thanks to the SBA and the state government, who's also giving out money. There's been a lot of survival in getting the small businesses through the most disruptive period probably any of us will ever experience in our lifetime. So most of them are thriving. Some are surviving. There are those industries that got absolutely hammered. Event marketing, people just couldn't go to conventions and things like that. But most of them are coming back and taking advantage of a lot of the programs. We're finding, I was going 90 to 110 hours a week during COVID. I've never worked so hard in my life. I'm finding I actually have time for lunch, which is why I was off camera a little bit there. So we're seeing a much more rational, regular return to business. We're seeing a lot of people buying buildings, commercial real estate, a lot of that. And I think Eli alluded to that. So a reminder to everybody on the call, we are the Massachusetts Small Business Development Centers. Our mission is to help anybody in the state of Massachusetts who is thinking about starting a small business, is in a small business, wants to grow a small business, wants to buy or sell a small business. Our services are paid for. So my paycheck comes from a combination of the SBA and the state. They're free. People can come and talk to us about anything that they want to come and talk to us about that's business related, and we will try and help you find financing, marketing, legal. We really cover the whole gamut of providing the infrastructure that small businesses lack because they're usually just one-man bands, two-man bands. We service anybody who has 500 employees or less. And they have to be $50 million a year or less in revenue. So there's nobody too big, too small, too big as anybody over 50 million who can come and take advantage of our services. And I believe Ann Fenton, who's on the call, has probably put, and if she hasn't, she's going to. There you go. Oh, Ann, you got them coming to me directly. Oh my goodness. In the chat, you will see from Ann Fenton that there's a request for counseling form that you have to fill out. It's an intake form. Demographics are required. And then you can reach out and get an advisor you usually stick with one, who will help you with all your business needs. So we've been busy. It's nice to see it slowing down and being a little bit more normal, but we're here for you.
That's great. Jill, can you give a little information on the upcoming workshops or how people can sign up for those or get on your mailing list? Because your mailing list is great.
Sure. Well, there's two mailing lists I highly recommend to everybody. One, of course, is the SBA.gov list. Get into the SBA's website. It's SBA.gov. And they too offer an awful lot of programs. The way to get on our mailing list is to fill out that request for counseling form that Ann is putting that's on our website. It's in the chat. She can post it again if you don't mind, Ann. And once you become one of our clients or customers, even if you only come once, you will start getting a weekly email from us, and it tells you what's going on, what free seminars there are, free workshops, latest news from the SBA, in case you're not on the SBA one, what's coming from the state. And behind the scenes, we're contributing to that all the time, focusing it through Ann, who's on the call, to figure out what we can put in that email that's meaningful. And we get great attendance. We're actually measured on how many people we get signing up. You'll find free financial workshops offered by some of our resource partners, like Seed, who I think Eli mentioned.
Yeah.
Who will help you with finance, accounting, getting your books and records in order so that you could be ready to go for borrow money when you need to. So filling out that intake form gets you automatically into the system.
Okay, and we'll post Seed's information as well down below so folks can have access to that. Also, I want to share something that someone shared with me. If you go down to the chat to the right 3 dots, and you are, interested in some of the information that is being shared in the chat, you can just highlight the 3 dots, and below that it says save chat. You can just hit that button and it'll save all of that right to your computer. So you can go back and check out the links and access the links. So you don't have to write them all down. That's one of those little, shortcuts that I've learned recently.
Thanks for sharing that, Chris. I never knew you could do that.
See that? See, we all must be over 45.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite over 45 yet, but maybe soon.
Okay, so, but it's funny because I think the person who shared that with me said, "Oh, everybody knows that," but they don't. I mean, I think in a certain group you know about it, but I didn't know it, and I thought, thank God, because I used to try to write down all these chat things or take a screenshot or a picture on my camera, and now you just go to those 3 dots, you hit the chat button. Go to the 3 dots to the right of the smiley face, and then just save the chat, and then you'll have all that later on. It saves somewhere on your computer. You're gonna find it on your hard drive, but you can do that. So I want to thank you, Jill, for being with us. I wanted to share with you one more item, and that is the employee retention credit. This did not get a lot of attention early on because you either qualified for the PPP or you qualified for the ERC, but you couldn't do both. Until a year later, the first couple of days of January of 2021, they said you are now eligible for both. And many people missed that memo. And so there's a company that I was just on a call with who is out of Worcester. Eli, you might know them. This guy's name is Ryan Foley from Cunningham and Associates, tax and growth experts in Worcester. They will come in virtually or on site and do a quick scan of your payroll. And if your payroll dipped below a certain amount in the quarters of the year of 2020 or 2021, you qualify retroactively for an earned or an employee retention credit, up to $7,000 per employee per quarter for up to 6 quarters. There are companies that are in our chamber that have accessed hundreds of thousands of dollars above all the PPP, above all of the EITC, what is it, EITL, all of that in addition to, and it's really opened up a whole new sphere of revenue. This gentleman, Ryan Foley, who I think Emma is posting now his information, he'll talk with you about it. They do charge a fee. They have to work with your payroll company, but it can be retroactive is my point. And it what they do is they apply it to the current federal taxes that are due. And if there is none that are due, they send you a check or transfer funds to your account. So again, just from a little organization like the Chamber, we accessed more in that tax account than we did from PPP. And that's true of a lot of companies and nonprofits that I've talked to, but many don't know that both qualify. So trying to spread the word on this, reach out to Ryan. He'll talk with you. He'll probably give you a sheet, just fill it out. And you can work with him to see if your company qualifies. It is very, very well worth checking it out. So we're coming up on the hour. I know there were some questions in the chat, and I know that Emma tried to answer those that she could. I didn't know if there were any in there that that anybody saw that they wanted to address, or anything that we missed. Go ahead, Eli.
So Chris, if I can just add something, you mentioned the employer tax credits, and we've made this guidance available for small businesses. So that credit can be taken in addition to any of the programs that we have provided. Okay, so the only caveat to it is that for the PPP loan program, let's say, or the idle, right? You cannot use the same period that was used for the covered expenses, payroll expenses,
Okay,
for the employer tax credit. So
Okay.
that's the only caveat I want folks to remember on that. So let's say folks used a covered period of 8 weeks or 24 weeks or anything in between.
Yeah.
That window of time, right, cannot be utilized, or those payroll expenses, because they were already forgiven under the PPP, they
okay,
cannot be utilized for the employer tax credit. But like, we only cover 10 weeks of payroll. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a big window. And again, that's why the agency clarified that. Obviously, there's 52 weeks in a year. So
yeah.
a lot of
That's a
businesses.
great point, Eli. And when I've talked to companies, I said, why have you not looked into this? And again, it goes back to the PPP piece, like you're talking about,
Mhm.
or the fact that their bookkeeper or CFO is overwhelmed with all of the rest of the PPP stuff, didn't go to the ERC, or didn't get the update that they could access both, which was a year later. And so they just never went back. I've also heard complaints about payroll companies that they have not been cooperative or not familiar with how to file for this. So sometimes it takes someone like this guy, Ryan, or others to help your payroll company generate the information necessary to access the credits. But that's a great point. Is that information available that you have that we could add to the chat?
Yes, yeah, I can send that over.
Okay, great. We'll send that out on the we send out the recording to everybody in this. So that's great. Is there anything that anybody else wants to add? I know we're coming up on the hour, and it's been a great discussion with a lot of great information. Again, we're going to be live next week. We will have a panel. I know Susan and Margaret have agreed to serve on that panel. We also have Gene Fox from the South Coast Railway, and we have the new president of Massasoit. I would invite any of our panelists who are available to please come, and we'll give you 5 minutes to update folks on items that we covered today, or new information that becomes available. So other than that, am I missing anything, Cathryn or Emma? You did see in the chat that somebody just recorded something. All right, you get the Foley thing in there, okay. I'm going to hit save chat again, so I have that. Well, thank you all, our panelists, for being with us and providing this new information for our folks. We look forward to being live again next week. And then our Small Business Awards are on the 13th, and those will be held at the Thorny Lee Country Club, or Golf Club in Brockton. And again, we hope folks will join us for that celebration as we enter Small Business Month. Thank you all, and look forward to seeing you at some time in the future. And have a great weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful today and tomorrow. So
Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Chris.
thank you. Thank you.
Take care, folks.
All right,
Bye.
have a good one.
Have a nice weekend.